Spire.
These two kind of go.
These
hand
two
in
go
hand.
to, yeah, I was going to say they go hand in hand. Spire buys BJ Mcleod's and Matt Tiff's charter from Live Fast for $40 million. Yeah, I mean.
Cha-ching, right? For BJ Mcleod?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Great for BJ. I mean, he's, he really wanted to be competitive in the Cup Series, and he really enjoyed competing, and I believe this was one of the only teams that had their own engine program, whatever that might be, right? It's very, very tough to compete if you don't have a top tier engine program. But yeah, I think this is an opportunity well, how much, probably a financial thing of BJ's thinking. This is all speculative, right? It's hard for me to get in his brain and figure out what he's thinking. But, how much will I have to invest to really be competitive? It's a single car team. There's no efficiencies I gain because I am just a one-car team. And then what investment will I have to put in my team to be competitive? Or I could just cash out when maybe we're at the height of this, maybe we're not. I think probably made the right choice. It would be really, really an uphill battle to compete at a high level without proper resources, and it was going to be an uphill climb to get those resources. So,
do you know what he paid for the charter a couple years ago?
That's a good question, but I wouldn't think more than a couple $1 million.
Yeah, definitely 7 digits, right?
Oh yes, for sure. It was when charters were just a couple million. But yeah, I think it's we're still gonna have BJ and Live Fast around. They're gonna be competing in the Xfinity Series. So that's a influx of cash now to that program that hopefully they can continue to build on that program as well. So BJ's not going anywhere, and he's a great dude, and Matt Tift is giving back to the sport through his driving, his owning as well. So happy for them.
Trackhouse announced 2 new signees this week, one earlier in the week and then one yesterday, Saturday. Yep. Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yep. Good job.
Got it right.
Good job.
And Zane Smith.
Yeah, this is a great sign for Trackhouse, and I think that this is Zane is certainly deserving of this opportunity. He's every time he's had the opportunity to compete in Cup, he's done a great job, got great results. This is great forward thinking by Trackhouse and Justin for his team to look towards the future, right? And if you look at it really quickly, he's got more drivers than seats.
That's what I was about to ask. Now you have, I'm guessing, 4 Cup Series drivers presumably competing for 3 seats in 2025.
I think you said a key word there, competing. There's nothing wrong with competition. If you have more drivers than seats, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. You put pressure on those guys to, hey, let's let the best man win, right? So I think, I don't think there's any secret that the SVG thing is more of an experiment than anything. I really look forward to SVG running in, multiple series next year and getting to run ovals and learning it. I think he's a great dude and tremendous talent, obviously. But that experiment could take some time. Would he be ready to run Cup full-time in ovals in a year? No way. Just no way. I mean, these guys are just too good. But you want to see him have a steady progression of it. So if Trackhouse can keep under contract for a few years, maybe you see the progression that you like after a year or two, and then you move them up to Cup if the opportunity presents itself. Zane, I think, is more of a given as far as where he thinks he's going to be in 2025. It sounds like he's going to get kind of leased out. Not leased out, that's kind of a weird word, but, kind of farmed out to Spire for next year. With that, Spire has an alliance with Trackhouse, which is interesting. I thought they had an alliance with Hendrick. So it sounds like Spire's just kind of being this farm AAA team, and that's probably downgrading them more than I should. But it's like they're kind of a feeder for these bigger teams. Like I know their pit crews really come from Hendrick, so A lot of their Devo guys or development guys, young guys on pit crews that they develop, start at Spire. Bam, if you perform well enough, you get on a house card at the on a pit cruise. I don't know that their personnel really runs through Spire, like mechanics or anything like that, engineers. Not that I'm aware of. It doesn't mean it's not true, but it's not that I'm aware of. So this is obviously a big move, by Spire to invest this in their team. I guess the only question I have would be, did they spend $40 million on a charter, or was this part of a deal with the Gamebridge group that allowed them to own a stake in all three charters? So I guess, you don't know, the devil's in the details, but you don't really know, is the headlines right, or is there more to this deal than meets the eye? That's just a question I guess I would have, because it certainly affects charter values, right? If they just paid 40 for this one charter, which is, BJ's charter's been ranked last for a couple years now, or is this part of a bigger deal that, unless you're in the know, or NASCAR or somebody in the financials would know, is this part of a bigger buy-in to Spire from the Gamebridge group? And so it'd be interesting to know that for sure. But either way, it's a big investment. They're working. The Spire group's getting better and better. It's great to see that they're continuing to invest in the sport. And obviously, they had a great night last night with Corey LaJoie going before he crashed. But they're running better and better for sure. I don't think there's any secret to, you got Carson Hocevar probably going in the 77. You're going to have Zane in the third car, Corey in the 7. So they've got some good young talent there that is ready to, when probably Dad wants to call them up, Dad being Trackhouse on one side, Hendrick on the other, they're ready to make a move. So
for argument's sake, let's pretend that they did purchase this one charter for $40 million. How does that make you feel as a fellow owner who's also in the charter market?
Well, first of all, that's speculative. To say I'm in the charter market, I feel much better about my investment if it is true, right? If it is exactly what as advertised, with what we paid. If you combine what we paid for the two, it's just a few years ago, and then. Yeah, I like my investment. It's turned out well so far. But all it really does, it's not worth anything till you sell it. So it's still, for us, it still costs a significant amount to compete. And it's still, if you don't have the sponsorship, you're not going to compete, and you're going to lose money every year. So it's just a matter of, it's good that the franchise value, though, is worth something, because, these owners like Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs and Roger Penske and Richard Childress that have been around for such a long time deserve, getting paid for their commitment to this sport for decades and decades, right? They deserve for their franchise to be worth something, a big number, whatever that number might be.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. If BJ Mcleod's charter is ranked at the bottom and was just purchased for $40 million, what does that mean for the 11 charter, the 5 charter, the 9 charter?
I think that when it comes to getting sold, right? Let's just use, you got the group that purchased into Gibbs, right? More than likely, they purchased into the assets, the contracts. So they bought into not just the charters. More than likely, they purchased into the whole franchise of Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, a lot of that includes, how much money worth of, contracts do they have with sponsorship and manufacturers and things like that? So there's a separate evaluation than just for the piece of paper saying you're allowed to compete in this, and have a charter. So, it's tough to say. It's tough to say what really the big teams are worth, because certainly they have more assets, they have more contracts with sponsors, and certainly the more contracts you have that, of revenue, the more revenue you have, typically your value of your franchise would go up at a multiple. You can argue what that multiple might be. So I think it's good for everyone. Certainly, we're still in some trying times when it comes with our negotiations with NASCAR. We're only 3 months and some change away from like our charter agreement running out. There needs to be some serious work on that, like in a hurry. To redo our charter deal in just 3 months is very optimistic on NASCAR's part, and what the last thing the teams want is this deal to be rushed. We want it to be right and beneficial for everyone involved, and I believe that we can get that done. So overall, this is a good sign for the teams. Still need to make it at least viable on a year-to-year basis, but certainly it looks like there's some long-term value there.